Who? The House Chairperson.
There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 16, Basic Education Appropriation Bill.
I will now call upon the Honourable Minister of Basic Education to introduce the debate. The Honourable Minister.
House Chair, my department, Deputy Minister Mohaule and I would like to express our gratitude to the NA as we table this budget vote 16. Chair, this budget vote takes place under unique circumstances in our country. They are unique in that we are operating under a government of national unity environment, which is important and historically significant because it reflects the will of the people. Chair, we also operate under extremely difficult fiscal conditions, which require innovation, creativity, firm and financial discipline. As we navigate these unique times, we must be reminded of our shared commitment to uplift, to empower every child in South Africa through the provision of quality basic education, especially children living in poor communities. It is our constitutional mandate to do so and to give meaningful expression to the right to basic education as enshrined in our constitution. The power of education to change one's life trajectory cannot be understated. Njengamntu osuka ezilalini zaseQonce eMpuma Koloni ndiyayazi imeko yabantwana nawootishala abaninzi abafundela phantsi kwazo. Ngaphezu koko ndiyakwazi ukubaluleka kwemfundo esemgangathweni. Ndiyazela apha kum. Ndime apha nje ndiyenzela uba ndime apha nje namhlanje kuba ndafumana ingqeqesho nemfundo esemgangathweni. Access to quality education should not be a privilege only afforded to some. There are far too many children in our country for whom quality education is out of reach and for whom life chances are severely diminished. We simply cannot shrink away from our responsibilities to them. This speech, Chair, is not about to be announcing big policy implementation plans, but to essentially stipulate what we have and what we've been given by the fiscus. Although the usual 5-year planning cycle does not allow for changes, given that this government was sworn in halfway through the school and academic year, there was little to be gained, and it would have been irresponsible to change the program and initiatives that are already in operation. However, going forward, I must make it clear that I will not implement policies or programs without evidence of their value in our concerted efforts to improve quality outcomes of the system. Our learners deserve nothing less. Anyone who takes a critical eye of the work of this department will not find much fault in its policies and plans, but we must go far beyond just the policies and plans. We must objectively assess the outcomes of the department and the impact that we are making in the lives of learners. This is especially important in a context where we have the public purses under severe pressure. If this department does well, it creates a path of success for many who have been excluded from economic advantages of having a good education. And therefore, we must be bolder, we must be ambitious, we must set high evidence-based targets for ourselves. In this regard, I have begun the work of critically assessing the targets and milestones of this department. For example, the department projects that the desired outcome for school governing body effectiveness for 2024-2025 is 50% of schools. This is nearly 30 years after the South African Schools Act was enacted. Given the critical roles of SGBs do play in our public schools, it is simply not good enough to simply give us this target. We must do better. In my short time in office, I've also been approached by learners and parents of learners who are reaching the end of grade 4, who cannot read for meaning or manipulate simple numbers. They want to know, how do we reconcile the reality of setting targets to increase the national senior certificate pass rate or improving the percentage of bachelor passes? I therefore applaud those in our system who are taking this work seriously and understanding that it's absolutely important to get our learners in the system reading and calculating and being able to stay the course all the way through to grade 12. These challenges that are articulated by parents are reflected in our current achievement levels at international benchmarks, which we participate in. While there has been some improvements, our literacy and numeracy rates remain unacceptably low. My team and I will obsess about getting learners at all levels of the system to be able to read for meaning. Chair, going forward, I intend to review the implementation, the funding, and desired outcomes of all programs carefully. These programs cannot simply be allowed to be implemented if they cannot succeed or do not have the desired impact. My reading of the department's plan from up to 2024-2025 is that there are a number of activities which have outcomes and indicators which were meant to be done by 2024. And so I will be assessing these and engaging the department to see where are they in making those plans. For instance, let me make an example. Grade 9 performance in mathematics. In the Trends and International Mathematics and Science study that was set to improve from 372 in 2015 to 420 in 2023. And so I want to engage my MECs and my colleagues, the MECs in the provinces, to take a careful look at this information. The link between monitoring and improvements is obvious, but it is often confused by increasing monitoring, but it is often confused thinking that increasing monitoring leads to automatic increase in performance. This is simply not the case. Chair, this is another area where I will be critically assessing whether our efforts to monitor quality in the system are truly driving improvements. To address these and other pressing education issues, I intend to establish an advisory council representative of the education system as soon as possible. This needs to include all key stakeholders across the sector, as well as experts in key disciplines. This council, once up and running, will be an invaluable resource to us in ensuring that our efforts to strengthen our education system are targeted, evidence-based, and informed by the best practice. In line with all these commitments now, Chair, let me outline the 5 key priorities of the 7th administration. Number 1, we will intensify our efforts to improve access to and the quality of early childhood development because we understand its importance. Number 2, we will be improving literacy and numeracy skills across all phases of schooling. Number 3, we want to improve access to and the quality of inclusive education for all our learners, particularly those with special needs, because it's important that the system is accommodating of everyone. And number 4, we want to improve access to and the quality of training and professional development opportunities that are available to our school management teams. The teachers are the backbone of our schooling system. Given the many challenges that our teachers and principals are required to respond to daily, we need to make sure that they are supported in order to achieve what they need to achieve and make sure that our learning outcomes are improved. And then finally, but certainly not an exhaustive list, we want to improve the safety and the quality of schooling environments for our learners. This includes reducing overcrowding in classrooms, improving access to electricity, water, adequate sanitation, and of course, removing inappropriate structures such as pit toilets in our schools. In particular, I want to carefully review the recently published norms and standards for school infrastructure to make sure that they give clarity to provinces and to drive meaningful improvements in this regard. We cannot have learners who are in danger of drowning in pit toilets or learning in inappropriate structures 30 years into our democracy. And now, Chair, allow me to highlight some of the key allocations within this budget. The MTF budget allocation for the Department of Basic Education is 32.3 billion rand, which is an increase of 7.4% from the last year's allocation. And the breakdown is as follows. Administration has increased by 3% and now sits at over 600 million. The allocation for curriculum policy support and monitoring has increased by 16% and now sits at just above 4 billion rand. The allocation for teacher education, resource and institutional development is sitting just under 1.5 billion rand. Planning information assessment is allocated 15 billion rand, which marks an 8% increase from the previous year. The allocation to educational enrichment services has increased by 5.8%, which is a 10 billion rand allocation this year. The overall allocation for conditional grants is 26 billion rand, which is an increase by 10.4% in the previous year. These are the conditional grants I am talking about. Maths, science, technology grant has been allocated just under 500 million rand, which is a 15% increase from last year. Infrastructure delivery is continuously being funded through the Education Infrastructure Grant, and that is allocated 13 billion rand. Accelerated School Infrastructure Development Initiative is funded by 1.6 billion rand, which also includes the Sanitation Appropriate Education Initiative. HIV and AIDS, whose purpose is to support South Africa's HIV and TB prevention strategy, has been allocated just under 250 million rand. The school nutrition program has been allocated 9.7 billion rand, and the learners with severe to profound intellectual disabilities grant receives just under 300 million rand, which is an increase of 7.1%. The overall allocation for earmarked allocations and transfers is 3.1 billion rand. The allocation for Funza Lushaka bursary program is 1.2 billion rand, and Umalusi has been allocated 166 million rand, and the National Senior Certificate Learner Retention Program, also known as the Second Chance Program, is allocated 38.6 million rand. Workbooks, which include Braille workbooks for visually impaired learners, has been allocated 1.2 billion rand, and SACE, our South African Council of Educators, is allocated a subsidy of 16.4 million rand. Early childhood development, which is one of our priorities, has been allocated 150 million rand, and early childhood development nutrition has been allocated 197 million rand for this current financial year. Chair, we wish to remind this House of our plan which guides us, and this plan is the action plan to 2024 towards the realization of schooling 2030. It gives expression to the Constitution, to the National Development Plan, as well as to continental and international conventions, which continue to provide a moral imperative and mandate to government to make social justice principles of access, redress, equity, efficiency, inclusivity, and quality education opportunities widely available to all its citizens. There's a growing acknowledgement that deliberate and sustained systemic efforts must be made to improve the quality of teaching and learning in South African schools. At all times, we must remind ourselves that there are non-negotiables for the basic education sector. As with the Government of National Unity, our national and provincial partners and stakeholders in the basic education sector need to work collaboratively, creatively, and earnestly, irrespective of our different backgrounds and beliefs, to make sure that we make meaningful strides in strengthening and enhancing our existing systems to do everything that is possible to improve the life chances of our children. The best interests of our learners need to guide our collective efforts. Chair, from next week, we will be meeting many of our stakeholders, starting from teacher unions, school governing body associations, the principals associations, national organizations responsible for learners with special needs, and independent schools associations. These are our partners and our stakeholders who do the work on the ground. And so their wise counsel is absolutely important and appreciated in how it informs our work. In the coming weeks, I will also be visiting all 9 of our provinces to engage with my provincial colleagues. We wish to thank the chairperson and the honorable members of our portfolio committee, whom we met last week. They gave us invaluable input and committed to holding us accountable against our targets. It was encouraging to hear that because the committee intends to conduct oversight visit. Siyayifuna into ba amalungu eParliament ayozibonela kumaphondo onke. Kaloku silapha nje sithunyiwe ngabemi beli ukuba sizobathethelela. Yiyo loo nto ke ndiwuxabisile umsebenzi walapha eParliament. I also wish to thank the Deputy Minister, Dr. Mhaule, the Director General, Mr. Mweli, and indeed the entire DBE team as a whole. They have made the onboarding process of the past 2 weeks smooth and have demonstrated that what can be done when we work together with a common goal of improving lives. Mandiyigxininise le ndawo ka-DM uDr. Mhaule. She's a reliable, valued member of our team, and I look forward to working with her. Let me end by thanking each and every one of our stakeholders who plays an active role in educating our country. Please join me in our learning
Honorable
journey.
Minister, your time has
With your
expired.
support, we can improve the quality of education outcomes in this country.
The next speaker is the Honorable Maimela.
Honorable members, esteemed colleagues and fellow citizens, it is a privilege and honor to address this House today as we debate, deliberate, and approve the budget allocation for basic education for the forthcoming fiscal year. Education is a powerful instrument that has been used in the past to oppress and dehumanize people. Education has also been a liberating instrument, empowering the oppressed to wage a struggle against an oppressive and exploitative system. Even today, education is a contested terrain, as various sections of society seek to dominate the philosophical and theoretical constructs that are part of the education curriculum. Over the past 30 years, the African National Congress has used education as a weapon against poverty and inequality. We've increased the country's literacy rate. Many households in rural and urban areas can affirm that families that did not have a graduate today celebrate graduates in their families. A strategic objective of the Freedom Charter has been to open the doors of learning with the intention of creating equal opportunities for all South Africans. Inequality and poverty have created disparities in access to opportunities for Black people. Challenges of reading with meaning by grade 4 are due to the challenges at a foundational level. We believe that through increased investment at this level, we will have better education outcomes. These conditions, impacting mostly children of the poor, require the government to continue implementing the pro-poor policies, which categorizes schools in quintiles and provides extra support for schools with poor learners through the provision of nutritional food and transport for those who walk long distances. The democratic government recognizes the social and economic conditions of learners and thus developed programs to respond to these challenges of income through no-fee schools, which cover the majority of South African learners. We tackle hunger through the nutrition program, which feeds over 9 million learners every day. These programs are critical as they tackle the higher levels of hunger in our communities, supporting learners to be educated without an empty stomach. In the 6th administration, the ANC government successfully migrated ECD from social development to basic education. This is a critical milestone to place ECD in a department that prioritizes learning as is supported by child care services. As a portfolio committee, we will prioritize monitoring the expansion and development of the ECD landscape and expect the department to implement a comprehensive strategy that ensures that a child from a poor background has equal opportunities as a child of those who can afford. Such initiatives ensures that learners from low-income families and underprivileged communities receive the necessary support to succeed, thus fostering the inclusive and equitable education system. The introduction of pre-grade R classes at Malikane Primary School in Sekhukhune District, Limpopo, bears reference to this accession. The primary school introduced pre-grade R classes, which brought necessary relief for parents of the poorest members of the community of battling for funds to access ECD centers for their children. This progressive effort comes with a multiplier effect of a conducive preschooling environment and adequate preparedness of the children for the foundation phase of learning. Teacher training and development are key determinants of education outcome in teaching, and they should be continuously prioritized areas to ensure they have the skills of the changing world and deepen their subject expertise. As we move toward the expansion of coding and robotics in our schools, we need to focus on the training curriculum in higher education institutions to prioritize the skills of the changing world. In addressing the diverse needs across our educational landscape, ICT plays a pivotal role in enhancing learning outcomes, particularly in rural schools like the Rantlaka Secondary School in Bapalane village in Northwest. In these schools, teachers have been equipped with laptop computers and trained in digital skills and ICT integration, empowering them to deliver quality education in a digital enriched environment. The school boasts a fully fledged ICT center dedicated to learners, supported by broadband connectivity that facilitates effective teaching, learning, and administration, the impact of which is seen through the successive 100% matric pass rate. Our curriculum should stimulate entrepreneurial and innovation skills to respond to the developmental challenges of our country. Our priority of increasing the uptake of mathematics and science and technical subjects should be a focus area in the current term to ensure we align our education system to respond to the demands of the economy and our developmental trajectory. The aim must be to reproduce schools like the Katlehong Engineering School of Specialization in Gauteng, with a student body of 1,575, the majority of whom are girls. This school exemplifies our commitment to providing targeted educational opportunities in remote rural areas and townships. Katlehong Engineering School specializes in transport, where learners have the opportunity to obtain driver's licenses and remote pilot certificates. It specializes in manufacturing and logistics, offering subjects such as maritime economics, agricultural management practices and technology, mechanical technology, focusing on automobile, welding, fitting and turning, and electrical technology. Additionally, the school learners are required to take mathematics and physical science, ensuring a strong foundation in essential academic subjects. By investing in infrastructure, we can build more schools like the Katlehong Engineering School, which boasts of a matric pass rate of 98.5%. House Chairperson, this Parliament passed the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill. After extensive public participation and deliberations by the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, the bill seeks to enhance the organizational efficiency of the basic education system, to improve school governance, leadership, and accountability, transform education services, and protect vulnerable groups to ensure learner well-being and access to learning. This bill has been distorted in some sections of society due to the misinformation and false fear of centralizing power to the HOD, while the bill, in essence, effects judicial orders on the role of an HOD. Our nation continues to grapple with truly building a united society as a mistrust of the democratic government continues to exist. But we should not subordinate the interests of the majority, but also protect the rights of the minority. There is no section in the bill which undermines the voice and authority of the school governing body, and we implore the minister to clarify the policy position of the department to various social partners to ensure a coherent comprehension of the objectives of the bill. As a portfolio committee on basic education, we will continue the legacy of previous committees that have made strides in improving the education sector. We will build on those gains as we enhance the quality of education. We have made recommendations on the budget vote as a committee to address various challenges affecting basic education sector. We have recommended that the department ensures that the placement of Funza Lushaka graduates is prioritized to ensure employment for graduates as teachers and reduce the levels of unemployment. The department ensures adequate steps are in place to align early childhood development services with the principles set out in the Children's Act. The department considers a review of the screening, identification, assessment, and support policy to ensure early identification of learners within the schooling system who may have learning disabilities and be properly placed and assisted. Furthermore, that the department employs mechanisms to curb the rising school dropout rates. We made more recommendations to improve the quality of teaching and learning, and that department ensures initiatives and programs are in place to improve on quality and access to education in rural areas. The department to ensure additional resources to be targeted at quintile 1 to 3 schools, especially in the townships and rural areas. The ANC supports budget vote 9 to transform our society through education. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable Christians, and may I remind Honorable Members that there are waiting chairs on both sides. If you can move towards that so that it eases the movement to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Honorable House Chairperson, we are confronted with the stark reality that our education system has long been failing our young people. For too many years, promises have been made, reports have been issued, and yet the transformative change needed has remained elusive. As a member of the Democratic Alliance, I stand here acutely aware of our party's consistent criticism of the Department of Basic Education. We have not shied away from holding accountable those entrusted with shaping the future of our children. We have highlighted deficiencies in infrastructure, chronic underperformance in numeracy and literacy, and the dire need for teacher development, and the persistent issues plaguing our schools, from pit toilets to unsafe buildings. As we scrutinize the budget allocation for basic education today, we cannot ignore the troubling figures that reveal gaps in our commitment to educational excellence. There remains a critical shortfall in funding allocated to key areas such as infrastructure development, teacher training, and learner support services. We must urgently address these gaps to ensure that every rand spent translates into tangible improvements in our schools. Additionally, as the Bala Bill awaits the President's sign-off, we must remain vigilant about its implications, particularly regarding funding and governance. While we acknowledge efforts to streamline educational administration, the Democratic Alliance has consistently raised concerns about clauses that could centralize power excessively and hinder community involvement in school governance. Our concerns about the cost of implementing mandatory grade R have not been addressed, nor have our concerns about disempowering school governing bodies from determining their own language and admission policies that still remain in the Bala Bill, despite some amendments to the clauses. We must ensure changes to educational legislation enhance the quality and inclusivity of education in our country. Unfortunately, the Bala Bill still fails in this regard. However, today marks a new chapter. Following the recent elections, a government of national unity has been formed, and with it, a Democratic Alliance member, Siviwe Gwaruwe, has been appointed as the Minister of Basic Education. This appointment signals a turning point, a commitment to real change, accountability, and delivering on the promises we have made to the children of this country. Honorable members, Minister Gwaruwe brings extensive experience and a deep commitment to educational reform. Her appointment gives us confidence that we are at a turning point in our efforts to overhaul the educational sector. Honorable members, the challenges before us are immense, but so too are the opportunities. Firstly, we must address the infrastructure crisis. It is a national disgrace that in 2024, some of our schools still lack basic amenities.
Honorable
like running
member,
water and
Honorable Christians will just take a seat, please. I see an honorable member wants to be recognized. Yes, honorable member.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair. I just wanted to pose a question to the Honorable Member. When she said,
No, you must first ask if she's prepared to take the
Yes.
question. Are you
Are you
prepared
prepared to
to
take a
question,
question?
honorable member?
no, House Chairperson, I'm not.
thank you.
Thank you. You may continue.
It is a national disgrace that in 2024, some of our schools still lack basic amenities like running water and proper sanitation. We must eradicate pit toilets and unsafe structures within our next term of office. Every child deserves to learn in an environment that is safe and conducive to learning. Next, we must commit to improving the quality of teaching and learning. This requires substantial investments in teaching, training, and support, particularly the STEM subjects where our learners are falling behind. Effective curriculum reforms that prepare our youth for challenges of the 21st century, including digital literacy and critical thinking skills, must be implemented without delay. Inclusive education must become a reality, not just a buzzword. We must ensure that learners with special educational needs receive the support that they require, that our schools are fully accessible, and that no child is left behind due to their disability or to their socio-economic background. Furthermore, the role of Umalusi and SACE in upholding standards and accountability within our education sector cannot be overstated. Umalusi ensures credibility and integrity of our examination, of our national examinations, while SACE oversees the professional conduct and development of our educators. However, both entities face challenges in their mandate, from resource constraints to the need for enhanced capacity and effectiveness. Strengthening their capabilities will be essential in safeguarding the quality of education and the professional standards of our teaching and workforce. In conclusion, House Chairperson, it is our duty to ensure that every rand allocated in this budget translates into meaningful outcomes for our learners. We stand committed to rigorous oversight, as the Minister has already indicated, holding the department accountable for every decision and ensuring transparency in every expenditure. With Minister Kwarube's leadership, as well as her teams and our collective resolve, we will turn this budget into a catalyst for transformation, one that propels our education system to new heights of excellence, equity, and opportunity for all. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable Ngube.
Honorable Chair, colleagues, Member of the Parliament, all protocols observed. I greet you all. I stand under the umbrella of the MK Party, led by our President Jacob Gedlehle Zuma. MK Party's firm belief in the rights of all South African children to access basic education, particularly to all public schools. We believe in well-supported and resource-basic education system, where the quality is not questionable because the schools are operationally, functionally, and produce results that are second to none. Honorable members, we are inspired by the new generation subjects, particularly by providing subjects like coding and roboting. We would like to endorse this speedily escalation in implement of these specializing subjects to all schools from grade R without delay. They should be taught at the early age the subject of coding and roboting, so that from at the age they start to reimagine a better future and the better work using these tools at the younger age. Honorable members, with regard to the grade R educators, sinenkinga lapho kothisha abaga grade R abangaholi imali ephelele. Labo thisha ibona abayi-founder yabantwana. Last time ekuqaleni ngesikhathi sethu thina kwakuthiwa ika first year. So now ika grade R. Labo thisha bafundisa abantwana ukubamba ipeni. Baze bazama ukuthatha udaka belibumba ukuze umuntu akwazi ukubhala. Kodwa lo thisha ohamba yolanda udaka enzela umntwana wakho ukuthi akwazi ukubamba ipeni. Lo thisha udepartment akamholeli ngalendlela yokuthi akatholi ngisho ama benefits ayo yonke imali etholwa umuntu osebenza under government. Ibhlungu imali eholwa uthisha ofundisa ugrade R. Uhola mangicabanga ithi 8,000 something. I-KZN yonke, but i-Gauteng othisha base-Gauteng abafundisa ugrade R bahola imali e-right ephelele enama benefits onke. So as Honorable Pinky, I said, with regard to grade R educators, immediately absorption is required to all grade R educators. This includes all with qualifications from diploma, B.Ed, and PGEC. Grade R educators are earning less, bafethu. Okay. Honorable members, the democratic constitution do not approve of basic education system. That is unjust and does not provide redress and equity. In your speech, You have mentioned to provide higher quality learning material. The implement of inclusive education is still a concern on the availability of special material and equipment. Shortage of reference book and other educational material and equipment in the school libraries. Even if there is adequate special material and equipment, learners do not have access to this material because educators do not have enough skills to manipulate material. Honorable members, what are your plans in terms of education, educators training for inclusive education in public school and shortage of equipment and materials for disabled learners? As umkhonto wesizwe part, we believe emfundweni yamahhala from primary to high school, nakhona kwi-tertiary education. Ngiyabonga, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable Mashabela.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chairperson, this year marks 30 years since the transfer of political power from a racist minority regime to a government elected by the people as whole. Over the past 3 decades, the Department of Basic Education has consistently failed to deliver on its mandate, leaving a legacy of neglect and broken promises. Despite the constitutional guarantee of the right to basic education for all, Black children in particular continue to face systemic barriers to quality education. This failure manifests in numerous ways, including inadequate infrastructure, insufficient resources, and a lack of qualified teachers. The persistence of pit toilets in schools is a stark reminder of the department's failure to provide safe and hygienic facilities. The tragic death of Michael Komape, a 5-year-old who fell in a pit toilet in Limpopo years ago, has not led to any awakening from the department because schools continue operating with dilapidated infrastructure. In 2018, after the tragic death of Lumkam Ketwa, a 5-year-old who fell in a pit toilet in the Eastern Cape, Mr. Ramaphosa committed to eradicate all pit toilets within 2 years via the formation of Sanitation Appropriate of Education Initiative. But much like many of his dreams, such as smart cities and bullet trains, the eradication of pit toilets remains a pipe dream. Every year there are reports of textbooks arriving late or not at all. This issue persists, contributing to poor academic performance and high dropout rates. To date, Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, and Mpumalanga are still experiencing significant delays in the delivery of textbooks. The department has consistently failed to address the shortage of qualified educators, resulting in overcrowded classrooms and poor teacher-learner ratios. This directly impacts the quality of education, which teachers are unable to give adequate attention to each learner. There are thousands of unemployed teachers in this country. We must leave no stone unturned in ensuring that all qualified teachers are in classrooms teaching our children. Reports in 2024 suggest that the country faces a shortage of 31,000 teachers, with the highest number of unfilled posts in KwaZulu-Natal with 7,044, Eastern Cape 6,111, Limpopo 4,933. Socioeconomic factors continue to hinder effective education. Many learners drop out due to financial pressures, including the cost of uniforms and transport. Chair, the current budget proposal fails to address these critical issues. It does not allocate sufficient funds for the construction of quality schools, the eradication of mud schools, or the timely provision of scholar transport. It neglects to ensure the employment of enough qualified teachers, provide adequate teacher-learner support materials, and address the socioeconomic barriers to education. The EFF family rejects this budget vote and proposes a progressive alternative grounded in our commitment to transforming basic education. This must include, number one, invest in contracting schools with proper infrastructure to ensure a conducive learning environment for all learners. Allocate sufficient funds to immediately eradicate pit toilets and mud school, preventing further tragedies and ensuring safe and hygienic facilities. 3, guarantee the timely provision of scholar transport to all needy learners, preventing disruption to their education. 4, commit to employing all qualified graduates to address teachers' shortages and ensure manageable teacher-learner ratios. 5, ensure that educators are paid competitive wage to attract and retain quality teaching professionals. 6, ensure every school has a social worker and a psychologist to address the socioeconomic and psychological barriers to learning. Implement a program to provide sanitary towels monthly to all school-going girls. If the government can provide free condoms for pleasure activities, it should prioritize this essential need driven by nature. In conclusion, Chair, the EFF demands a budget that truly invests in the future of our children and the well-being of our educators. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable Zondo.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Minister, we are, as the youth of this country, we are putting our hopes on you. I think the last term government has a lot that has done in this department, but there are many gaps that you need to fill. As a young person from Umkanyagute in KZN, I think you need to come closer towards Natal and even going deep to rural areas where the corruption in this sector is happening. Ukudayiswa kwama-post, ukuqashwa kwabantu beshintshaniswa besuswa ey'ndaweni ezinye bephanjaniswa beyiswa ey'ndaweni ezinye, because I believe ukuthi akukho fair ukuthi esikoleni sangakithi engabikho uthisha wangakithi ekubeni kuney'ngane ey'fundile ngama-graduate kwa-education. So it's only fair ukuthi umuntu aqashwe ngakubo kuzolimit ama-cost of living, kwenza ukuthi imali umhlomulo awutholayo ube effective nasekhaya. So we are banking on you, we trust you, we are hoping that you will come to those things and look to a possible solution.
who don't believe must go and open and read, must not be lazy to read. South African will want to see people that read. Read. There's a buzzword, reading, and read for meaning also and with understanding. So, Chair,
Proceed, can you proceed, Deputy Minister?
Point of order, Chair.
all members were invited. from the-
Honorable
From the-
Deputy Minister, there is a point of order.
Oh,
Point of order, Chair. Chair, we attend here in order to benefit from the Deputy Minister and any other speaker. It is important that she too has a responsibility to be cool and to really understand what is happening and to make the chairperson take the responsibility for the house. You are not responsible for us. He is responsible. So do not worry what is happening. He is gonna handle it. Please, because what we see now here, we see you getting frustrated. This is not between us and you. The chairperson must handle us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that intervention. Honorable members, may I indicate that with Rule 65, it says that members may not converse aloud during a debate. You are allowed to heckle, but you are not allowed to converse aloud when the speaker is on the podium. Can we please proceed, Deputy Minister?
But she's conversing with us, Chair, Honorable Chair. House
Honorable
Chair.
Reddy, Honorable Reddy, please don't do that again. Thank you. Proceed, Deputy Minister.
thank you, Chair. I was saying the department also in collaboration with the Motsepe Foundation is conducting school sports as well as the Estate Fort music, choral music competition. And all members are invited to attend the music competition that will start on the 7th to the 10th yeah, you are invited, members are invited at Rema. In March last year, the Motsepe Foundation announced a further donation of 150 million for a period of 5 years as part of the extension of the current partnership with the department. So the national championships for the netball will be held from 15 to 17 August in Northwest, and the one for football will be held from 23 to 28 September 2024. So as I indicated that the music one will be held from the 7th to the 10th of August at Rema Bible Church in Randburg. You are all invited. As I conclude, Chair, let me thank our minister, brand new minister, her visionary leadership, and she shows that we are going to walk this road together, and we really appreciate it being supported by the Cabinet of the Republic of South Africa, led by His Excellency President Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The next speaker is Honorable Thring.
Honorable House Chairperson, the ACDP notes that basic education has been allocated some 324.5 billion for the 24-25 financial year. Further noting that the annual average budget increase of only 2% is less than half the present inflation rate of 4.5%. The failing throughput of learners from grade 1 to 12 and the inability of our grade 4s to read with meaning lends evidence to the assertion that the department has failed our children. And the new minister, Honorable Gwarube, must leave no stone unturned to rectify this. There is concern that this budget will result in fewer teachers and increased class sizes in some provinces. It is evident that the country's growing debt and debt servicing costs has resulted in a dereliction of the government's Section 29 constitutional duties. The ACDP is aware of the predicted wave of teacher retirement, yet instead of investing funds in training prospective teachers, crucial initiatives such as the Funza Lushaka bursary continue to be underfunded. While appreciating the need to train primary school teachers in robotics, coding, and data analytics, this should not come at the cost of future teacher training. The ACDP asserts that the early childhood development sector, recognized as being foundational in supporting children's development, is grossly underfunded. Furthermore, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, which the ACDP will continue to oppose, will struggle to make possible the proposals to make grade R compulsory. Consideration for food price inflation does not reflect in the provision for the vital national school nutritional programs. So if inflation rises, the NSNP will not be adequately funded to carry the cost of nutritious meals to all 9 million learners. Hundreds of infrastructure projects were suspended due to COVID, but the Education Infrastructure Grant does not account for their resumption. The total 2024 infrastructure budget of some 14.95 billion is insufficient to provide the 70,000 additional classrooms needed in over 8,000 schools, address classroom overcrowding, and eliminate pit toilets. The aggressive cuts to social spending due to government debt, corruption, fraud, maladministration are a significant blow to the quality education of millions of poor and low-income households. Minister, you and your department must not allow this to continue and must not pay lip service to the constitutional mandate that everyone has a right to basic education, including adult basic education. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tring. I do not see Honorable Kwankwa in the house. Is there anyone from the UDM? Then the next speaker will be Honorable Ghana.
Na khensa mtshama xitulu nkhensa nkarhi lowu nga nyika woho vahlonipheki va huvo holobye xandla xa holobye amxeweta minister, quality basic education is a right and not a privilege for the few with money. This afternoon I want to rise for all the children of this country to receive quality basic education in public schools. The doors of quality learning and teaching needs to be open to all. We unfortunately currently have two education systems. One is for the rich who buy their way into quality education, and the other is for the poor people of this country. I have to say our children deserve to learn in safe schooling environment, and our teachers, because many times we talk about the learners, our teachers also deserve to teach in safe environments. This is what I want to see this budget achieve. I want to see this budget move us closer to achieving a universal quality education for all the children of this country. No child has to die in pursuit of quality education because the local schools are failing. And I want to send my condolences to the children that have passed away this past week on their way in pursuit of quality basic education. Many children in this country have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning so that they go to a better school. It can't continue. It can't continue. We should not allow it to continue. So I have a wish, Minister, this is my wish, that one day in this country, we'll start seeing private schools closing. And the reason that they have to close is that public schools are delivering quality and affordable basic education. It has happened in other countries. It has happened in Rwanda. Private schools started closing because public schools were waking. Can we work towards that? If we work towards that, you'll have the support of Rise Mzansi. You'll have the support of Rise Mzansi. And the other thing that I want to say, you know, no child 30 years into our democracy has to cross dangerous rivers and walk long distances in pursuit of education. It shouldn't happen. And I hope, Minister, Deputy Minister, this will be a key focus. Let's invest in school principals. Let's fix the infrastructure. Let's ensure that the school nutrition works. Let's ensure that the school transport system work for our children. If you do that, Rise Mzansi will support you. But if you don't, you know. But for our children, I'll always rise.
Honorable Ghana. The next speaker will be Honorable Maimani.
Thank you so much, Honorable House Chairperson. After 15 wasted years in education, I want to welcome the decision by President Ramaphosa to appoint Minister Siviwe Kwarube as Minister of Basic Education. Minister, it is indeed a generational mission that we can ill afford to fail at. And therefore, I want to congratulate you and wish you well in this enormous task of shaping the future of our children. I think it is undeniable the fact that the architects of apartheid dreamt of a nation that is divided and divided on the basis of income. We have an education system that is dual. If you are wealthy in this country, the probability is that you'll go to a school with decent infrastructure, decent teachers, smaller classroom sizes, etc. But if you are poor, your destiny is vastly different. In truth, children going to quintile 1, 2, and 3 sectors will invariably be the ones who are walking through rivers to try and get to schools, invariably be the ones using pit latrines at schools along with their teachers. Invariably, those will be the children who will drop out before they hit matric, and in all likelihood, will be the children who go to a school like Maibuye in Tembisa, a school I recently went to go see, where ultimately it was built on a swamp after the Department of Education in Gauteng proclaimed that it can be built there. It's a school today that even the public protector has ruled the fact that sewage is running into the classroom. This is the indignity our children who are poor, who live in another education system, end up with. And therefore, I want to urge, Minister, that as part of the objective of the 7th administration, we have to work day in, day out to make sure that more of our children who start school at least finish school. That ultimately more than 27% of them can pass matric mathematics with over 50% rather than the current level. That actually more of them, by the time they hit the age of 10, can read for meaning rather than the statistics that we face up to. This is in fact the fact that more of our children must start and have a decent ECD center. We get this right, we give them a fighting chance in an economy that is slow to absorb labor. So, Minister, I want to give you my assurance. If we do the following things, I will support you. Let's build digital infrastructure in schools. Let's ensure that actually we replace the Bella Bill with something that gives parents the right to choose what their children are. Why don't we merge Funza Lushaka with some of the YES programs so that we can increase the number of teachers in the classroom so that the poor can have smaller classes? And ultimately, why don't we ensure the fact that we scrap the grade 9 learning certificate? I dare say the 300 billion rands you've been allocated this year should make sure that it prepares our kids for a future that can compete with everyone. I could go further, but time limits me. And therefore, Minister, I want to thank you and wish you well in your journey. The failure of our education system will be the collapse of our nation. I think.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maimane. The next speaker will be Honorable Zungula.
Minister, I'm sure you know very well the importance of this department for ensuring our country has a bright future. The department must address the inequalities in the schooling system, the differences between the private and public schools, and the quality of education between the rich and the poor is glaring. In public schools, there must be a drive to ensure the infrastructure is conducive to learning. There must be no pit toilets in this day and age. The schools must be well kept, and the learners must have an environment that entices them to learn. Teacher colleges must be reopened to produce quality teachers, and all teacher vacancies must be filled. And itishala mazibhatalwe kakuhle. There must be a ratio of 1 teacher to 30 learners for maximum individual attention and the tracking of learners' work. The department must work on a timeless review of the curriculum. Our children cannot be taught a curriculum that is not relevant. There must be a skills-based education system that imparts skills as required by the economy. The following subjects must be compulsory to meet the present life needs: computer skills at a primary level and computer applied technology at a high school level. Our schooling system must prepare learners to fill the gaps as required by the economy. Sports and arts, practical education must be a priority for the department. The education system must identify talents and capabilities of the learners and cultivate those talents. We can't have products of the schooling system who are regarded as unemployable. The solution lies in an education system that teaches learners skills and to be job creators. We must appreciate, Minister, young teachers such as Principal Andile Mbuku from Hlumisimfundo Academy at Gqeberha, who is doing an excellent job in their schools. We need teachers who are patriotic, who love their learners and their profession. Such teachers must be rewarded. We want a South Africa, Minister, where children do not need to cross rivers in order to get to school, where they won't be walking more than 20 kilometers just to get to school, where they will get an education that will empower them to succeed and achieve their goals. Minister, the country needs this department to succeed. We thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zungula. Jama-ah, NCC, UAT. The next speaker will be Honorable C. Jordan.
House Chairperson, Honourable Minister and members, as we deliberate on the budget, it is imperative for us to take stock of where we are now and whether this upholds the goals we have put in place in the past for this moment. I therefore deem it important to reflect on some outcomes that the department had envisioned for itself, particularly in the medium-term strategic framework for 2019 to 2024, so that we could fully consider whether what we have before us does justice to the crucial task of securing the future of South Africa by investing in the architects of tomorrow, the millions of learners in our schooling system that rely on us and our unwavering support to their education. Did you know that in the first 4 years of life, more than 1 million neural connections are formed each second? This is a tremendous pace at which learning and brain development takes place and is a small window of opportunity to establish potential in children that can have a lasting impact in life. The responsibility of early childhood education is not one that can be neglected. In South Africa, this requires dedicated financial and systemic support with ongoing monitoring that is aimed at upholding high-quality early childhood education that can improve school readiness. The DA supports and urges the department to expedite their plans for educational programs for 3 to 5-year-olds and rendering support to home-based care and learning programs for young children. In a recent Portfolio Committee meeting, the Honourable Deputy Minister referred to the clause in the Bella Bill suggesting that making grade R mandatory is a solution to upholding educational standards in early childhood education. Though this would be the ideal, the department also presented significant target adjustments that are reporting to be attributed to budget cuts, leading one to reiterate the DA's concern that making grade R mandatory is currently unaffordable. The true measure of our commitment towards the department's aspiration of improving school readiness of children is not found in promises, but in the figures that back it. It is indisputable that the mentioned target adjustments will have an impact on other aspirations of the department. The Second Chance program is one such project. The matric pass rate for 2024 is being reported as 82.9%, but this is only of the few that end up making it to matric. At the same time, the Second Chance program is deprioritized and adjusted downwards. 345,626 learners dropped out between grade 10 in 2021 and grade 12 in 2023, 33.3%. The Second Chance program is directly related to another outcome that the department had set out to achieve in its medium-term strategic framework: youths that are better prepared for studies and the world of work. When there are South African teenagers out there who are suicidal because of bullying, anxious about domestic violence, worried about feeding their younger siblings, who are having to work while they are underage because bread and butter that their parents are able to provide is simply not enough, becoming pregnant because they are sexually abused by men in their communities or families, and while quality education in our country is hard to come by for the majority of its learners, it should be obvious that it may be difficult for kids to pass the highest level of basic education. For the most part, adolescents who struggle with being successful in schools are having a pretty hard time. They need our support to succeed in life. This support applies also to the well-being of a learner. It has been reported that the National School Nutrition Program provides lunch to more than 9.6 million learners in some schools, as well as breakfast to some of these learners. A commendable effort that we encourage and applaud. What we must remember is that for many of these children, these meals might be the only nourishment they receive in an entire day. This program does more than feed, it sustains hope and supports physical and cognitive development. Therefore, the Democratic Alliance has and will continue to urge the department to extend the program to also include breakfast to all schools in the NSNP. In addition, during the 2023 budget vote debate for this department, an audit of all NSNP programs was called for by the DA following the inability of KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape provinces to supply lunch in the Q1 of 2023. Though the programs are now operational in these provinces, the DA strongly urges the department to monitor delays in supply chain management processes and payment towards provinces in this life-sustaining grant to ensure that every cent available in this program is dedicated to filling the stomachs of our children. A further level of support that necessitates diligent oversight to learners in South Africa, particularly in rural communities, is transport. The DA maintains that there is a need for decisive conversations and feasibility studies over which department is responsible for this competency. Furthermore, the lack of STEM experts in South African schools remains a concern, as well as the placement of Funza Leshaka graduates. This program does not only have potential to bolster STEM education, but has the critical role in improving standards of education in poor and rural schools. Honourable Chairperson, we have a unique and defining opportunity in our time of office as proponents who have declared a commitment to South Africans that we will transcend the political divide and work together to put the needs of the people we serve first. Let us ensure that in everything we do, our primary focus is the delivery of quality basic education, and that the learner is at the center of this, from their early education stages to their applied for support as they enter the world of work, and their preparedness and ability to contribute beyond this to a prosperous and equitable South Africa. As a DA, we commend Minister Gwarube for her clarion call for intensification of efforts aimed at creating an environment conducive to teaching and learning and condemning undignified circumstances that undermine this. We look forward to hearing the outcome of the Minister and the Department's provincial visits, and are convinced that benchmarking and oversight will display the political maturity of the government of national unity. We also look forward to conducting constructive oversight over the activities of the Ministry and this imperative department. We welcome wholeheartedly the Minister's transparent and novel optimism, her inclusive approach that she has committed herself to, and concern with and focus on learners as the future drivers of South Africa.
Thank you very much. Honorable Low, there is a seat there for you when the other speaker is speaking. You are the next speaker.
All right, thanks, Chair. I did not see the seat. In future, I will occupy my relevant seat. House Chair, the ANC has placed education as an apex priority because we understand that through education, a child of a domestic worker can be a medical doctor. Therefore, education is fundamental for the social and economic transformation of our society. I am a true testimony that through education, a nobody like myself, I grew up in Pampierstad. I attended school at Pampierstad High School, which is a no-fee public school. My mother was a domestic worker in Pampierstad in town of Aswater in the Northern Cape. And my father is a mine worker who's working at Rustenburg Impala Mines. I stand here boldly as a Tintswalo that have benefited from the ANC-led government policies. Since 1994, the democratic government has eradicated mud schools. We have built state-of-the-art schools with laboratories, libraries, and sports facilities in township and rural areas. This progress does not negate the fact that there are backlog of infrastructure existing in many areas, which is also caused by population increases, migration patterns, which led to the closure of schools where such are not viable. The accelerated school infrastructure development
Chairperson.
The accelerated school infrastructure development
Honorable Law.
And there's in
Honorable Law, can you please take a seat?
Chair, I think the member must stop misleading this country. We have a lot of pit toilets and mud schools.
No, that's the point of
Just
debate.
can't stand there and mislead
Can
this
you
country
please
that
switch off the mic?
There are no mud schools.
Can you
there are no
please
pit
switch off the mic?
toilets.
Can you please switch off the mic now? Please,
I've done, I'm switching
Please.
it off.
please.
I'm done.
Thank you. Can you proceed, Honorable Law?
Yo, o itse go thata go liela bagolo ba gaetsho le ngwana. The Accelerated School of Infrastructure Development
Honorable Law,
Initiative.
Honorable Law, can you please take your seat?
I withdraw, Chair, sorry.
Can you please take your seat? Honorable Jama?
Honorable Chair, I'm just actually checking on the rules of our parliament. We tend not to disrupt a speaker when there's a maiden speech. Please. can
You are correct, Honorable Jama. Can you please proceed, Honorable Law?
The Accelerated School Infrastructure Development Initiative and the Sanitation Appropriate for Education program of the department have drawn us close to ensuring all schools in South Africa have the requisite infrastructure in accordance with expected norms and standards. We have resolved as a committee that the minister submit to the portfolio committee within 60 days, focusing on the school infrastructure program to highlight what specific details, which schools were built or are planned to be built by the department in selected provinces, districts, and circuits. This should measure the percentage of school meeting minimum standards for infrastructure focusing on sanitation, water, electricity, libraries, and laboratories, and the required funding close to the gap. The department should further table a funding strategy to close the infrastructure gap in the sector, and various development finance instruments should be leveraged. With expanded infrastructure and increase in teachers in the education system, we will be able to lower the learner-teacher ratio, which affects the quality of education in our schools. We must urgently address the problem of crowded classrooms with the inadequate. You must relax. Inadequate learner facilities. Honorable Minister, our society is ravaged by social issues such as school and drug abuse and social ills such as gender-based violence, femicide, and bullying, which our education system should be able to develop. Addressing these challenges requires our education curriculum and societal efforts to focus on changing social behavior. Our schools should have systematic campaigns to embed the values and principles that negate social ills. Honorable Minister, we need to mobilize our communities to support our schools and create conducive environment for the growth of learners. The African saying that it takes a community to raise a child should find true resonance in our society for the community to raise the child appropriately without the need to rid our communities of these perpetual social ills. We have a duty as a sector to ensure that all schools going children are in the class, we must note that we do have a high dropout rate amongst learners who are beyond the compulsory school going age. This trend is visible in grade 10, 11, and 12. And the Bella Bill assigns a duty to school management teams to monitor the dropout situations and take measures to ensure such learners are in class. The Department of Education needs to strengthen its relations with the Department of Higher Education and Training to ensure that we reduce the number of youth who are not employed education or training between the age of 15 and 18 to ensure that such youth who are not compulsorily obliged to be at school are continuing with their educational development through technical and vocational education and training colleges. We will lower the unemployment rate of South Africa in this category because such you need to be in a developmental space in order for to participate in the economy productively. If we fail to tackle the problem of youth who are not in employment, education, training, we will create a fatal environment for such youth to be involved in various social ills. It is for this season that we have recommended that the department should increase the capacity and resolution rate of South African Council of Educators to effectively investigate and process all matters of sexual harassment in the education sector. We have recommended that the department ensure that there are strategies to target young people entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs to benefit the Department of Basic Education value chain in the scholar transport nutrition program, infrastructure development, and other good services. This critical aspect that contributes to the overall economic transformation efforts of the state through leveraging state procurement. The empowerment orientation should also focus on infrastructure development and maintenance for local developers and in other goods and services. We must ensure that local substantive and small commercial farmers get captive market in the nutrition program. We must ensure that scholars transport program supports many transport operators with stringent standards of society. We must state that safety of children is vulnerable with scholar transport vehicles do not comply with the roadworthy standards. We must act against the use of buggies to transport learners, which are usually overloaded and not safe. On scholar transport, we'll have to forge coordinated programs. The police and the Department of Transport, Public Safety to attend to these unworthy cars and buggies. Working with Umalusi, the South African Council of Educators, Teachers Union, SGB associations, and many other stakeholders in the education sector to tackle the challenges doing more together. Chair, let me clarify. We can't compare the apartheid policies to the current policies of South Africa because we'll have to go back and speak about the segregation, separation that took place on education, on any other issues. Consciously, we must say to the member of Freedom Fund Plus, it's wrong to compare such, because in this current epoch, the current democratic state of South Africa, led by the ANC-led government, has never segregated anyone, has always pushed for the policies of our people, more so to deal with socio-economic challenges of our people, as we are conscious to say that the motive forces becomes those who should benefit, and the policies of the African National Congress are aligned to that. Let me take this opportune moment to thank the ANC under the leadership of President Ramaphosa, the ANC Youth League NEC Collective led by the President Colin Malachi, Secretary General Ngungtle. The African National Congress support the budget vote on basic education and will play a robust oversight role over the basic education portfolio as its mandate is in the center of human development and breaking the cycle of poverty. Thank you, teachers, to correct me. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The next and last speaker will be the Honorable the Minister of Basic Education.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and thank you very much to the members who have engaged this budget. I think it's very, very important for members of parliament to be engaged with the work of government. We dare not underestimate the fact that we have been sent here to serve and to represent constituencies who expect us to use this opportunity to ask questions, to be rigorous in your oversight. And so I don't expect any members of this house to treat us with kid gloves, to not ask the tough questions. This is public money, it belongs to the people, and therefore how we spend this money is important, and that is why it is important that you hold us accountable. What is very clear, Chair, is that there is broad acceptance and embracing of this budget vote. But I must also say that your support of the budget vote, members, I do not regard it as a blank check for us to not go and spend the money towards improving the lives of learners. We understand that it is conditional on us actually delivering against the work that we say we're going to go and deliver. And so we don't take it for granted or deem it as being a blank check. I want to wholeheartedly agree with Honorable Mashabela. Honorable Mashabela has endorsed the department's priority of prioritizing infrastructure. In her alternative speech that she gave about what we should be doing, she essentially has endorsed the fact that it is absolutely critical that infrastructure is dealt with in our schools. And many of the members in this house have raised the issue around dignity and the dignity and the indignity that many other educators, staff, and even learners have to essentially endure in some of the schools where there's not proper sanitation, where there are still children who are dying in pit toilets. And many of these members have essentially raised this as a point. And I want to say that the deep inequalities that exist in our system are not lost to me or the team that I lead. And so I want to make the undertaking that the department and I will work tirelessly to make sure and to assist provinces in eradicating pit toilets in this country. It cannot be that after 30 years, there are still children who have to drown in this kind of inappropriate infrastructure, or still have to learn in places where there is no roof for windows. And so I do want to make the assurance that where these kind of things are happening, we will be going to provinces and we will be assisting them as they are the implementers, of course, of their budget. It's also important to note, members, that of course, the functions of this department, there is a concurrent function between us and the provinces. And so you will see that the huge allocation of this department and its budget is sent to provinces to spend against their targets. And so MECs do not report to the Minister of Education. MECs report to premiers. And so mine is a collaborative relationship where I have to work with MECs to make sure that budgets are spent, that workbooks, are delivered on time, that we are eradicating pit toilets, that we are making sure that teachers are safe at schools at all times. I also want to raise the point that the over 300 billion rand that we have in this department is also not one that can build roads and bridges, is not one that can create a safe learning environment. That is why it's going to be absolutely critical for me and the Deputy Minister to be on the cases of our colleagues in cabinet to say they have to come to the party. The issue around making sure that we deliver quality education in this country has to be a whole government approach. We have to get water and sanitation on board. We have to get public works and infrastructure on board. We've got to get the entire government working together to make sure that we can create and deliver a quality product where learners who leave the system in grade 12 leave having received quality education. And so that's why I want to also emphasize that the inclusion of the ECD and foundation phase in our system is absolutely key. It will assist us in terms of making sure that we increase the literacy and numeracy levels of our learners. We want our learners to be able to read for meaning, but also to stay in the system from grade R all the way up until grade 12, so that we can see and regularly test that in fact they are up to task and they are according to par of international standards. Once again, ndiyabulela nge-engagement yenu. Ndiyabulela, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, you are reminded that 3 debates are scheduled simultaneously for 16:15 today. The forestry, fisheries, and the environment budget vote debate will be held in this venue, while the National Treasury budget vote debate will take place in the committee room M46. Additionally, the Defense and Military Veterans budget vote debate will take place in committee room S12A. That concludes the business of the day, and the mini plenary will now rise.